Yo, parish orphans and retrogrades. Happy new week. Didn't come to you with a Monday show yesterday because we had a Sunday show, a special presentation of Steph's most controversial chapter lecture, which she's giving to a special group on Ask Your Husband. This one was called Wear What He Likes, Do What He Likes. Go watch that video if you haven't. It was Sunday's video. We don't always do a Sunday video, but man, is it special for the channel to have Steph able to just lift from her class and provide it for public consumption. It's just special content because there's a war out there in the laity. You know this if you're on Twitter. It is for the soul of the family, which means women go back home, be beautiful, be supportive. Men, insist that your women do this and be good. That's how we take back the laity. And that's really my wheelhouse. All this talk about Pope Francis, Tucho Fernandez, the Holy See, the crackdown on the Latin Mass, Fiducia Supplicans, the October Synod. I hate doing these shows. I hate doing these shows. The more of you guys watch these shows than anything, and it is a part of this channel's ministry, and it has been since I've been out for 5 years. I love doing that which is medicinal and badly needed for the family. Patriarchy stuff, any of the other three pillars of this channel, subsidiarity, right-wing community organizing, how to homeschool, how to do schooling correct, don't go to college. I love all that. That's my passion. Bagging on Pope number 266 is not. But there's always news. There's just always news. So last week I was like, I'm not doing any Francis shows. Stick a fork in me. I'm done for Francis shows, at least for the week. And I missed a bunch of stuff such that now there is automatic Fiducia Supplicans Fallout update. And I just can't skip it permanently. Edward Penton tweeted yesterday regarding, and this is a quote from Pope Francis, regarding criticisms of Fiducia Supplicans, those who vehemently protest belong to small ideological groups. Those who don't like Fiducia are part of small ideological groups. To which everyone and their grandma replied, holy cow, how do you say something like that, Pope Francis? Like the continent of Africa? Like the continent of Africa. Pope Francis knew he had to carve out some sort of cope, some sort of exceptional explanatory for this huge continent, which has wholesale rejected Fiducia Supplicans and its sexual ethics revolution. So he described the church in Africa, according to Edward Penton, as a, quote, special case. Why is Africa a, quote, special case? This is like saying, you know, the majority of people actually hate ice cream. And then your interlocutor goes, I'm pretty sure almost everyone, at least in America, loves ice cream. And he goes, well, it's just fringe groups that like it. And you're like, what are you calling fringe groups? And they're like, well, carve out, take an exception for, overweight white people. Don't count them, even though they're like the main group that love ice cream, overweight white people. And you're like, okay, well, they're not a fringe group. Yeah, I said that. They're not a fringe group. But if you cut them out, it's only fringe groups that love ice cream. Well, yeah, you can do anything to your demographic categories and then say only fringe groups love something that virtually everyone loves. That's what he's done here. Well, they're a special case. That's why I'm not counting them as one of the fringe groups who reject Fiducia, because pretty much every faithful Catholic, along with every serious-minded Protestant Christian or Eastern Orthodox Christian, is like, what are you doing? Pretty much everyone. It's only a group of left Caths together with Pope-splainers that pretend to love Fiducia Supplicans. But these Africans, who should not be considered one of the fringe groups, because it's like every African in Africa, for them, direct quote from Francis, Homo sapienism, wink, is something ugly from a cultural point of view. They do not tolerate it. Wait, what? I don't get it. Well, I don't get it. So we're setting aside African Catholics who are known for their fidelity to the teachings of the faith. We're going to set them aside because for them, murder's wrong. Well, yeah, that's a very mainstream position. That's a very doctrinally concomitant thing to say, because murder is wrong in the Roman Catholic faith. But Francis says, well, no, for them, they're fringe, but they're a large fringe group, and I'm dealing with them as such because for them, Homo sapienism is something ugly. They don't tolerate it. Well, no Christian tolerates it. It is for a Christian something ugly. However, he added, I trust that gradually everyone will be reassured about the spirit of the declaration, Fiducia Supplicans, which aims to include, not divide. It invites us to welcome and then entrust people into trust in God. Now, that's much more typical Francis speak. You're used to this kind of hokum. Well, I aim to include, not divide. Those are usually transitive verbs, Pope Francis. Include who? Oh, Homo sapiens. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, we should include them. But except we shouldn't do so by embracing their sin, which you've done. He loves using transitive verbs intransitively. I aim to include. Include whom? We need a direct object there. He's letting your imagination fill in the gaps. The Fiducia Supplicans invites us to welcome. Welcome whom? Also a transitive verb. Where is the direct object? It invites us to welcome and then entrust. Oh, people. That's who. There is a direct object there. And to trust in God. That's what we're used to from Francis. But the big marquee statement that he made is this idea that for them, for Africans, murder is wrong. That's why we have to kind of set them aside and deal with them with kid gloves. Walk on eggshells around them. For them, rape, murder, robbery is wrong. That's weird. For most Christians, Fiducia Supplicans is a good thing because for most Christians, Homo sapienism is not something ugly. I'm just reasoning from by dint of what he said about the Africans here. It's not something ugly, evidently, for most Christians, Francis thinks. Why? I beg to differ. I beg to differ big time. For most Christians, they do tolerate it. Well, that's actually true, but that's because they're not good Christians. That's because they don't listen to the gospel. That's because they have a false gospel. That's because there's a low-key, unstated apostasy in both the clergy and the laity. That's because Christianity has been disregarded by Christians. Roman Catholicism has been disregarded by many Roman Catholics. Here's the most important takeaway of the newest Francis. Characterization upon characterization upon characterization of his own document, Fiducia Supplicans. He says that it's really only small, fractal, demographic, extreme portions of the church who reject it. That's interesting, isn't it? It's only small portions of the church who reject it. People immediately said, well, what do you mean? What, like this continent? The continent that is part of the expansive world, the expanding world, the third world, Africa, who you're always lauding as being so Catholic. They're trying to boost their infrastructure, cleanliness of their drinking water, but they're being lauded by Catholics and have been so for decades. It's the politically correct thing to do. Oh, Africa, they're so faithful. It's actually a politically correct truism that's true for once. They are faithful. But Francis doesn't like the Africans. Francis, from the onset of this pontificate, I would remind you, has been opposed by the Africans. It was 1 year into his pontificate at the extraordinary October Synod in 2014 that there's an article, many articles to this effect, which was titled, "The Africans May Well Save the Church," because Cardinal Sarah and others stood up at the October 2014 Extraordinary Family Synod and they said, this isn't a synod on the family. This is a synod on how to break the family, how to enable Catholics to get divorces and enable those divorced Catholics to go get the communion, confession. No, we say. The Africans also said no to the relatio, the midterm report. And that midterm report said we need to focus on, this is more relevant for fiducia supplicans, the positive dimensions of Homo sapien relationships. Direct quote. What? All the Africans rebelled. It created world press. They took the line out for the final document. Relatio is halfway through the synod. The final document took the language out, and Francis was reportedly angry. His buddies were reportedly angry. Cardinal Casper, the brain trust of the first, at least the first half of this pontificate, was upset. And he said, these Africans, they don't, he said something very similar, but less politically correct to what Francis just said yesterday. They don't really understand. They're not really relevant to the church. They don't get it. They have a backwards approach to Homo sapienism. No, Cardinal Casper, it's front ways. But remember that, hold it at the front of your brain. 2014, Cardinal Casper mad that the Africans hold the line on this most egregious sin of Homo sapienism. 2024, 10 years later, Pope Francis, the boss, El Jefe, saying basically the same, more or less racist thing. We don't typically freak out about racism on this channel, so I don't use the boomer term like that's racist, but it is. Whether you know, irrespective of how you feel about it, it is pretty genuinely lame to say, oh, the Africans aren't cool because they hold the line on sexual teaching. No, I think that's the coolest thing about the Africans. I love Cardinal Sarah for his willingness to hold the line, which has waxed and waned over the last 10 years. Cardinal Sarah started out really strong. Then I think maybe to regain favor, he chilled for a while and said some nice things about Pope Francis that were maybe a bit of a stretch. And then, you know, he came back strong and he's been kind of went through that sinusoid roller coaster several times throughout the last 10 years. But hold that at the front of your brain. 2014, the Africans hold the line on the positive, affirmative aspect of the good aspects of Homo sapien relationships. 2014, that language is mirrored closely, almost identically, in that famous, paragraph 37, 31, 41 in Fiducia. Someone remind me, it's one of those. I said, oh, look, hello, hi there, look who's back. It's the language of the affirmative aspects, the stable aspects of Homo sapien relationships. That vanished like a David Copperfield trick from the Relatio in 2014, and 10 years later, on its, not quite its anniversary, it's back in Fiducia Supplicans. And now Francis is kind of like the vanishing trick of Cardinal Casper, decrying the Africans. He took that away. He said, oh, this is so embarrassing. They had a hot mic. It was a hot mic. He said, oh, the Africans don't really know what's going on in the church. He said something just like that. And he was embarrassed later, and it was a great embarrassment. And the media played it down, but the right-wing media still picked it up. Francis is saying something almost as bad when he looks and he says, well, look, there are these fringe groups. They're the only ones that don't love Fiducia Supplicans. And you respond, as you read it in your mind, no, Holy Father, it's everyone. It's everyone aside from two groups. I don't mean in the church, not just two groups in the church, two groups in the whole world. Liberals, like lefties, which includes left Catholics, that's one group. Well, they love Homo sapienism. They love the fact that if you tell people Homo sapienism is okay, you're paving the wide path to hell. They love that. That's the goal of a lefty, is to get as many people to hell. They've been tasked with this on behalf of the demons. They love that. And then you have the very, very confused Catholics who are not lefties, who are Pope-splainers. Cope-splainers could be their other moniker. It's just cope, and a lot of them are new Catholics. They don't really know what's up. But they know that it's good, generally speaking, to defend the pontificate. They're sincere. A lot of them are good people, unlike left Caths. They're just, a lot of them have been in the church under 2 years. They don't even know about the October Synod of 2014. They don't even know about the October Synod of 2015. They don't even know what Cardinal Daniels admitted to about the Mafia Club, the Sankt Gallen Mafia. They don't even know about Giulia Maloney's excellent research and articles on the Sankt Gallen Mafia. They don't know any of this. They don't even know what came out in the Summer of Shame in 2018, a lot of them, that Pope Francis lied and covered for and then reactivated Cardinal McCarrick, basically enabling him and lying for him afterwards to go and bebother more young seminarians after he'd bebothered young boys like James Grine and lied about it afterwards. And Cardinal Vigano called him out. And Cardinal Vigano produced the receipts. They don't know this. Very few of the Pope-splainers know it. Most of them are young converts or reverts that came in within the last 18 months and don't know. Now, there are those Pope-splainers who I don't think have good faith, who know about this stuff and were themselves bothered about it at the time, and then they just explain it away because, I don't know, it's most profitable for them.